While India's Prime Minister came with ideas and proposals, Pakistan's Prime Minister came with appeals. Frankly, you can't blame him. Pakistan's economy is going through a rough patch. Actually, rough patch is an understatement. Their inflation is almost at 27%. Their foreign exchange reserves are down to $8.6 billion. And almost one-third of the country is flooded. So Shehbaz Sharif had no option but to appeal. He was visibly emotional during his address at the SCO roundtable. Take a look.
I've been in public life for the last 40 years. I have never seen with my eyes this kind of terrible devastation. It is catastrophic, of proportions unknown to the people of Pakistan, and of course, by extension, to the entire world.
You heard him, and I have to say, full marks for honesty. In fact, a few days back, Shehbaz Sharif was feeling even more honest. He was addressing a convention of lawyers in Pakistan. Let me now quote what he said. "Today, when we go to any friendly country or make a phone call, they think that we have come to beg for money." He goes on, actually, "We have been wandering for the past 75 years carrying a begging bowl." He says Pakistan has been carrying a begging bowl for 75 years. Do you know what we call such countries? Basket cases. They don't have a functioning economy. Instead, they survive on aid and loans. So the question is, how does Pakistan plan to solve this crisis? Initially, they were betting on a bailout from the International Monetary Fund. Earlier this month, the IMF approved the first payment, around $1.17 billion. But that was before the devastation caused by the floods. Now, the situation has changed. Almost one-third of the country is flooded. Around 1,400 people have died, and almost 500,000 are living in temporary shelters. Close to 1 million homes have been completely destroyed. The total damages? At last count, almost $30 billion. That's around 10% of Pakistan's GDP. Recovering from this crisis will be a massive challenge. And I underline the word massive. Pakistan alone simply cannot save its economy. It will need assistance from the UN agencies along with partner countries. So what does that mean? The begging bowl will have to come out again. Even their proteges are abandoning them. I'm talking about the Taliban. Pakistan's deep state created the Taliban in the 1990s. They helped the Taliban conquer Kabul twice. But are they returning the favor? Well, far from it. The Taliban have snubbed Pakistan more than once, and this week, things got ugly. There was a gunfight at the Afpak border. Taliban fighters clashed with the Pakistani soldiers. Over what? Well, that depends which side you ask. The Taliban claimed that Pakistan was building military outposts near the border. Time now for a quick side note. The border between Afghanistan and Pakistan is called the Duran Line. It was drawn up in the 1890s by the British colonial officers. Pakistan accepts this line, but Afghanistan does not. In fact, no Afghan government can ever recognize the Duran Line, not even the Taliban. Coming back to these clashes now, Pakistan has a different version about what happened. Listen to this. Terrorists from inside Afghanistan across the international border opened fire on Pakistani troops. Two things to note here. Number one, Pakistan doesn't refer to the Taliban fighters or soldiers. They are instead calling them terrorists. Number two, they admitted to casualties. Pakistan says 3 of its soldiers were killed in the firing. Now, this is not an isolated incident. Tensions have been rising between Pakistan and Taliban for a while now. In April, Pakistan launched airstrikes on Afghan territory. Around 47 people were killed and 23 injured. This week, we had another face-off over Masood Azhar. The 2611 mastermind is believed to be living in Pakistan, but Islamabad denies this. Their government says that Azhar could be in Afghanistan. What's more, they're asking the Taliban to arrest him. The response from Kabul was swift. They denied the charge and asked Pakistan for proof. So why are Pakistan and the Taliban sparring? We can think of 3 reasons. Let's tell you. Number one, the Taliban's refusal to recognize the Duran Line. Because of that, the border is porous. There is illegal migration, cross-border terrorism, Simply put, it is almost like the Wild West. And reason number 2, the Taliban's unwillingness to help with the TTP. The TTP refers to the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, basically Pakistan's version of the Afghan Taliban. And their goal is to overthrow the regime in Islamabad. They want to impose Sharia law in Pakistan. So where does Kabul figure in this conflict? The Afghan Taliban has considerable influence over the TTP. There are ethnic links. There are familial relations. Yet the Taliban has refused to use that influence to rein in the TTP. And this has irked Islamabad. And finally, let's now come to reason number 3. The Taliban doesn't really need Pakistan. That wasn't the case during their first stint in power. In the 1990s, Pakistan was a key Western ally in South Asia. They had endless financial and military support. Now, not so much. Like Shehbaz Sharif said, Pakistan is out with the begging bowl. At the same time, the Taliban have discovered new options. China, for one, is cozying up to them, and so is Russia. Remember, Russia actually fought against the Taliban during their first stint in power, but now they are partners. Which now brings us to the all-important question. Has the Pakistan-Taliban relationship run its course? In theory, perhaps. But on the ground, Pakistan has long-standing networks. They have considerable clout over the Haqqani faction of the Taliban, so this relationship may not end soon. But the power disparities have narrowed. Just like Afghanistan, Pakistan too is now dependent on aid and loans, as they say. Proxy politics is expensive. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.